So we're joined all the way down from Boynton Beach, Florida, by my friend Hannah Foy, social media marketing strategist, entrepreneur, you name it. She's got her hands in so many things. We thank you so much for joining us as our first speaker of the school year for our entrepreneurship class. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, Madison Central High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for taking some time out of your schedule for us today.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I was so excited when you came into my LinkedIn and mentioned it because I'm someone that would have loved something like this when I was in school, as someone that's just like trying to figure out where they want to go and all that stuff. So this was exciting for me. That's why when I saw the opportunity, I was like, of course I'm gonna do it. No questions asked. So yeah.
So I know you have a presentation, a short presentation to talk about some of the marketing skills. Everybody in this class is coming up with a original business concept, and obviously we're not having to make them start the business, but being able to think like an entrepreneur, be able to sell, be able to market is what really sets people apart. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, it sets people apart in business.
Yes, I totally agree. I think once you're in school and you start thinking of what your future is going to look like and deciding what route you want to take, whether it's entrepreneurship or just in general working in like a corporate environment, you do need to have certain skills that I feel will help propel you to any career path that you want to take. But especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think a lot of the times people don't realize you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. So you definitely want to fine tune certain things, figure out exactly what you want to do, test and try different things, just so that way you pick something that you're truly passionate about and it's not going to feel like work for you. If you ask most entrepreneurs, if they love what they do, they're going to say it doesn't feel like work for me, even though I'm having to put in long hours, whatever the case is.
Yeah, and the story I always think is so funny. This friend of ours of the class also, she wrote a book and she was promoting the book. She was trying to sell it at these book fairs. And she said, I'll never forget, these people spent years of their life writing a book, and then they were just sitting there behind a table hoping people would buy it. And I'm like, look, you can be a great writer or whatever your business is. You can be have a fantastic idea. You can know the numbers. You can be a great person to work for. But if you can't market it and sell it, all the work was for nothing.
Yes, absolutely. And in this day and age, with such different avenues that you can take to market, like your business, your idea, or your product, you definitely want to be thinking about that as you're working and developing your business or your product, what that marketing is going to be like, what your target audience is going to be like. So that way, when you're ready to launch that product, you already have a strategy in place to be able to say, okay, this is my target audience, this is what I want them to get. This is the solution that I'm trying to solve for them. So you have like a general idea of how you want to present yourself and market your product and just propel it from there on forward.
Sure. Well, I'll let you set up your presentation. I'm looking forward to seeing what you got.
Yeah, so I took the liberty of actually just using what I did for my business, which is House of
Cool.
Fasang. And I thought it was a great way, instead of creating like a cookie cutter presentation of like, this is what you should do, whatever, I chose to use myself as an example of that. What I send clients when they're trying to get to know my business more, and then use that as an example to show people what that looks like in terms of like marketing yourself, right? A real life example that's being used out there. So House for Saying is a digital marketing agency, but we're specifically focused on social media marketing. And so if you ask me why, Hannah, why did you just decide to stick to social media marketing? It's what I was talking about before, is that when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to come up with your business and what you want to do, you really have to narrow it down, because although sometimes and in some industries it's amazing to be a jack of all trades. And if
Yep.
you don't know what a jack of all trades is, it means someone that knows how to do different things here and there. That's amazing. But sometimes when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's really good to narrow down on what am I really, really good at? So out of the five things that I know how to do, let me pick one that I know I can really shine and I know how I can call myself an expert in that and use that as the foundation of how I set up my business. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do the other things that I like to do or know how to do, but I wouldn't classify myself as an expert in those other things. I would just focus on this one thing, because what that allows you to be able to do is really perfect it and really get education around it and make sure that you're standing out, right? When it comes
Yep.
to competitors, which is something that we'll talk about moving through this
Man, I'm telling you,
presentation.
and that's the key word. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you've got to stand out among competitors some way, somehow.
Yes, exactly. So, so in this presentation, this is what I send my clients, right? And why is number one problem versus solution. So, whenever you're creating a business, a service, product, whatever it is, you're trying to solve a problem that someone has. Even if you're not thinking about it in that way, as from today, I want you to start thinking about it in that manner. What problem am I trying to solve?
There you
And
go.
your business is going to be that solution to that problem. So that's always the first thing that I present to my clients. I'm saying, hey, whatever problems you have, my business is going to be the solution to that when it comes to social media marketing, right? And then I offer my product. What does my product look like? My different services, different tiers, whatever it is that I can do to customize it to fit the client, right? Which brings us to number three, our ideal clients. You want to show them that you have knowledge in the space that you're going into. You want to show them that you have familiarity when it comes to the type of businesses that you're working with, right? So, perfect example, if you are targeting mostly doctors' offices with your social media agency, you want to have good examples of that to show other doctors' offices and say, hey, this is what I did for this one person. Here's what I can do for you. And then number four is really selling yourself, right? Which is talking about your business model, how things work, why you stand out from other people that might be doing something similar, why they should choose you versus the next person, or even if your prices are a little bit more than the next person, why you can justify, hey,
Yeah.
these are my prices and this is why I'm priced this way because of my knowledge, my skills, my expertise. So I'm going to take a pause
Perceived
just
value
to,
is the word I always used.
yes,
If they think they're getting more for their money, they will spend more money.
exactly. So I'm going to pause right there. And if we have any questions, anybody wants to chime in. If not, I can keep going.
No, keep going. We'll have the questions from the students at the end, but I just wanted to add that because you talked about how to, you have to show how you add value. If you can offer more, you can charge more.
Yeah,
You don't have to undersell yourself to try to keep up with a competitor. You can outperform them and be able to charge more. I always say there's a reason Ferraris cost so much.
exactly. And there's a reason why you never see Ferrari ads, right?
Yeah,
Because they've done such a good job with their branding and their marketing where they don't need to pay like a bunch of ad dollars for like when you see commercials for like Nissan, Toyota, all those things. You don't really see those type of commercials for Ferraris because they've done a really good job at marketing, branding themselves and positioning themselves in a manner that people pretty much advertise for them without them having to do much. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So with the House of a saying, I incorporated marketing terms with it, but I'm using it narrowed down to what I do. So SEM. If you are in marketing and you hear the word SEM, it really means search engine marketing. But I'm taking
wow,
that and flipping it to something in social media and branding, right? So I switched SEM for social media marketing and I did it as solidifying your brand identity, enhancing your message, and measuring your impact. So, with that, I go into talking about who we are as a social media marketing agency. This goes back to just touching on the three SEM models, the SEM model that I created, and how we as an agency, we can use that model to help build a brand from the ground up or take one that's already existing on social media and enhance it, or if they've already have solid branding, they're doing well, and they just need someone to be able to measure their impact and take that data and use it for other things, what we can do for them as well. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm just going through the slides so you guys can see how I present myself to clients and how I map out what it's going to look like when I'm trying to tell someone I can solve a problem for them, if that makes sense.
wow.
So with every brand, there needs to be a face, right? I think what people love these days is when there's a face to the brand. That means it humanizes the brand. It lets us know within this digital world of AI. AI is not a bad thing, but it lets us know there's a real human behind this brand. There's a real person that cares behind this brand. So I always want to make sure I'm introducing myself to clients, telling them the number of years of experience that I have, and then also telling them why I'm passionate about social media marketing specifically. Even though I have experience in multiple areas of marketing, here's why I'm really passionate about social media marketing. And so when it comes to marketing yourself, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're starting out, you are the best thing that could happen to your brand. Always think
There you
about that.
go.
You are the best thing that could happen to your brand. Because guess what? When you're starting out, you're customer service, you're the sales agent, you're the support team, you're the product developer, you're the marketing person. So you always have to think in all of those buckets, how can I present my best foot? How can I put my best foot forward to make sure that when a client approaches me in all those different points that I've touched on, they're getting the best service possible. Because when you set a certain standard for yourself, right, as a marketer, and you set a standard to be excellent, you're going to have that same standard for the people that you eventually grow your business and hire, because you're going to know, I want my customers to feel this certain way when they interact with my business. So whoever I hire later on down in line, as my business is growing, to take over these different aspects of it, I want to make sure that they're being a great example of how I want the interaction with my customers to be, if that makes sense. So yeah, I introduce myself and then I go into the problem and solution. Problem, we say, hey, a lot of businesses are struggling to leverage social media to boost their reputation, or they kind of have just put social media in the back burner because they don't really understand the power that
Yeah.
it can have. This doesn't have to be for social media, it can be for any business as an entrepreneur. You always want to identify the problem that you are trying to solve. If you do not identify the problem that you are trying to solve, it's going to make it really difficult for you as an entrepreneur to even have a solution. Because how can you have a solution to a problem that you don't know exists or you can't really define, if that makes sense? And then what our solution is we take a look at every client and see what they need, right? Do they
Yep.
need something like where their online presence is non-existent and they need somebody to be able to come in from the ground up and create an online presence for them? Or do they already have somewhat of an online presence? They just need more of that reputation management and someone to constantly boost it up and create new ideas or use like cutting edge technology to help them stand out. Or they're step one, they have the presence, they have the cutting edge technology that they're doing work or they're putting content out there, but they don't know how to really use that results from those things that they have to help drive sales, right? At the end of the day, businesses want to make money. You, as an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, once you start your business, the goal is for you to make money. The goal is for you to solve a problem for somebody and still make money and be able to live and just, have the life that you want to have and showcase your skills. So, problem and solution. Define your problem, and it'll be able to help you define as an entrepreneur what solution you can provide for these businesses and the problems that they have. So, products. When it comes to products, you want to always kind of simplify things. It goes back to what I was saying in terms of, yes, in certain areas, it's cool to be the jack of all trades and do all these things. But sometimes when you give people too many options, it starts to go crazy
Yeah,
everywhere.
and honestly, I think it really depends on the industry.
Yes, it
Um,
really does.
every industry is not a one size fits all. So, for example,
Hmm.
we have another friend of the class in New York. She runs a funeral home. She takes care of everything for funeral services for families. In that case, that would be a good idea because of the emotional impact, and then because you've got humans involved. In that particular case, you want to be a jack of all trades because she handles everything from the embalming to the service, the cards, everything. But in this case, this is not something where you want to stretch yourself too thin. So I really think that is industry specific.
Yes, very, very, very true. It's very industry specific. And that's why I did that caveat in the beginning where it's like, Yes, you don't want to be a jack of all trades, but it really depends on where you're working because sometimes you do need a jack of all trades. And you do want to be a jack of all trades because you want to be able to understand all the different aspects and things that are happening around your business to be able to make executive decisions that are only going to help grow your business and help further solve your clients' problems, right? So when I present my products in the terms of social media marketing, I know social media is a huge thing out there. There's so many different ways you can grow on there. You can build a community and just kind of set yourself up on social media based on how you want to present yourself, right? Some people take the professional route, some people take the funny route, some people take the memes route. What is it that you want to present? And that's why even when my products, when I'm pitching it to my clients, I've done market research to know like, here are the three pain points that I see or the trends. Trends is going to be a big one when it comes to marketing. Here are the trends that I've seen, and how can I create my solution centered around those trends? So I come up with three products: guided tour, passenger driver, commander in chief. Guided tour, obviously, someone that wants to be a little bit more in control, like that client that is not ready yet to completely give up control. You're creating a plan for them. Passenger driver is where they're in the middle. They're able to give control up for certain things, but they still want maybe like final approvals, all those things, yada, yada. You're in the middle somewhere with them. And then commander in chief is someone that is like, hey, I am so busy with so many other things. I do not want anything to do with this. I am hiring you as the expert, and I'm trusting that you're going to use your expertise to take over this whole thing, and I don't have to lift a finger, right? So when you create custom packages like that, that is a form of branding because you're
There you
allowing
go.
yourself to be able to be customizable based on clients. Everybody's going to be different. Sometimes when you create a one size fits all, you run into an issue where you are finding it hard to meet your clients' needs because you've created this cookie cutter box that you want them to stay into, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's important too because you talked about listening to the client. A mistake I see so many young entrepreneurs make is they just worry about what they like. Well, here's what I like. Everybody's going to like it. Well, when
Yes,
it comes to customer service, you have to listen to the client. And a line I say a lot is you need the customer more than the customer needs you.
needs you.
So just because something is to your taste and to your liking doesn't mean somebody else won't use it for their customers. I always say, I say you can't think like a high school student because they'll say, well, that costs too much. Well, somebody thinks that has a lot of money doesn't think it costs too much. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to cater to the market that the person is trying to reach.
Yes, absolutely. And even adding to that point, where a big thing when it comes to marketing in general and as an entrepreneur, it's not about you. As much as you are like, oh, this is my business, this is my product, this is my thing. Yes, you have control in certain aspects, but it's never about you. It's about your clients and what solution you can present for their problems. So once you always think in that lens that it's not about me, it's not about what I like or what I want, it's about my client and how I can solve a problem for them. You're always going to put yourself in a position to be successful because you're allowing that open floor to be able to receive feedback, right? And you're going to get clients that push your button and because they completely don't understand the industry. They completely don't understand
Yeah.
what it is that you're doing, but they hired you as the expert. So although it might be annoying, it's your job to say, hey, I know you want it this specific way, but here's some data that I can present to you to show why I want us to take this direction. But also be open. You can tell clients, all right, let's do a test, right? When it comes to marketing, you're always going to be doing A/B testing. You're always going to be trying trial and error for so many things, especially as an entrepreneur. When you're coming in and building any business, a lot of it is going to be trial and error. But I say to people, make sure you track your trial and errors so you can actually quantify them. So you can tell the client, all right, cool, I don't think this direction that you want to go is going to work, but I'm open to testing it out. And you can do an A B test, your idea versus their idea. Get quantifiable data from those two things so that way you're able to say, well, look, my thing presented well because hey, obviously I have the background in this and I already knew kind of like this was going to perform well. But sometimes when clients can see that quantifiable data, it builds more trust, right? So even later on down the line, if they're like, I want something to be done a certain way, and you give a little pushback and say, hey, no, let's do it this way, they're now more confident in your decision because that first initial time, you were just not like, no, if we're not going to do it this way, then I don't want to do it. You allowed them to do your A/B test so you can use quantifying data to show them, like, hey, this is why you should listen to me, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So, and then it also goes into picking your clients, right? So with my business, I focus on in within the healthcare space. So I did dentists, dermatologists, med spas, plastic surgeons. And the reason why I chose that is because I can really hone in that space and learn and be someone that understands that industry, where if I'm having a conversation with a surgeon or I'm having a conversation with a dentist, their only job is to educate me on what dentistry is. And my job is to take that education that they've given me, take my expertise in marketing, and translate their message in a way that is visually appealing, and so in a way that's going to attract new clients for them, in a way that's going to showcase their business in the light or the mindset that they had to present it. Their job is not to now become a social media expert. Their job is to just stay an expert as a dentist. And I'm pulling that knowledge from them to be able to use my expertise to present their business how they would like to present it. So I send this to clients so they can see that, hey, this is the realm of clients that I work with. So it's giving you confidence that if you as a dentist choose to work with my agency, you understand Hanah and House of Hasang, they have tremendous knowledge when it comes to dentistry. Or if you're a plastic surgeon, you know Hanah and her team have tremendous experience when it comes to working with plastic surgeons. They know exactly what their audiences are, and they're willing to invest time to learn more in those industries. And
Yep.
here's where it comes again, where it's like, I'm not deciding to be a jack of all trades. I'm not going to pick to be like, oh, I'm going to be a social media manager for a construction company, or I'm not going to be a social media manager for a software based company. No, I'm choosing to stick to this healthcare industry because I want to become an expert in it and because I saw opportunity there. A lot of the times on social media, when you look at dentist offices, all those things, there's not much. So if there's no reviews online for you to be able to read the reviews, especially when it comes to someone like a dermatologist, a lot of people struggle with skincare, right? Us women, if you know, you know, we struggle with skincare. We want to be able to go on social media and see before and afters to say like, okay, cool, this is what this person was struggling with before, and here's what their work looks like. A lot of practices struggle with that because they don't either have a strategy in place to be able to get their clients to say, hey, is it okay for us to film some content that we can use to later on share on our social media so that way we can show people what we're good at. So that's why I focus in this area of things. And then our business model, going back again, closing off our presentation with our business model, that SEM strategy. We're here to solidify or your brand or rebrand it. And then we're here to enhance your message. What does that mean? Um, Making your brand voice be powerful. How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to stand out? Right? And then measure your impact. And when we measure your impact, what does that look like? We're looking at your growth, and we're also looking at how that growth can help propel us to make you stand out from your competitors or the next medical office down the street or the next one or the next one.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm glad you have SWOT on there because we're doing a SWOT analysis in a couple of weeks. I just don't know it yet.
mhm.
Um, that is such an important thing to you talk about quantifying. It literally puts in writing, it gets everybody on the same page about what you're doing well, what you can do, some things you come up short, and that gives you, I think, a good base to hire the right people and make the right decisions.
Yep. A SWOT analysis, I feel like, not I feel, is the first thing you should ever do as an entrepreneur because even when you're creating a business, you are, although that word is not coming to your mind, you are technically doing a SWOT analysis of yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities that you can you can see and all that stuff. So it's always important with any business to do a SWOT analysis so that way you can have a clear picture of what your audience is, what is the problem that you're trying to solve, what do you currently lack as a business owner that you can invest in, whether it's more education on a topic or it's monetary investments in equipment or things so that way you're standing out from your competitors, whatever that looks like. And then finding that opportunity to say, hey, here's a problem, and I see an opportunity where I can provide a solution, and going in there and providing that solution.
Love it.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I thought this was a great example to use my
Yeah.
business instead of creating a whole new
Yeah,
presentation so you guys can see a
absolutely.
live example. I would love to open the floor up to questions and any of that other feedback
Yeah,
that I would love to
well,
get.
I have a few, and something we didn't talk about, which I always like to talk about with my guest, is a little bit about your educational background because you went to Florida Atlantic University there in Boca Raton,
Yeah.
huge university, but I've heard so many great things about it. So just tell us about your college experience and why you chose FAU and kind of about the skills you learned there.
Yeah, so going off to college, I chose FAU because I wanted to go to a university that was FAU is huge, but it's not that huge. So I wouldn't compare it to like University of Miami or Florida State University. And as someone that was going to college for the first time, I was like, I want to go to a big school, but I also don't want a school that's going to be overwhelming for me. So what I did was I did my research on different colleges and I ended up stumbling upon FAU. And when I toured FAU, everything was amazing. They had the program that I wanted to be in. So I said, hey, I'm going to go into FAU. I was one of those people early on that I knew from the very beginning what I wanted to study, right? Which was marketing. I knew I wanted to study marketing. So the first thing I did when I went to college was pick my major. I already knew like, okay, I'm picking marketing, so that's what I'm gonna study. And from there on, I just started learning, and even from my first internship was in marketing. After 2 years of doing my first professional working experience, that's when I realized I love marketing as a whole, but I really shine in social media marketing.
Yeah.
And from then on forward, I started narrowing everything down into social media marketing. I worked for different companies, and then eventually I said, hey, I can start my own thing. I can, I see that there's a lot of businesses out there, especially small businesses out there that need help with social media marketing and they just don't know where to start or they just can't afford the large price tag that huge agencies have for them to able to get that service. And that's what prompted me to start my own business, House of a Saying.
That's awesome. Now, before I get to their questions, one more thing I did want to talk about is, I make all of them present. It's not, I don't grade it hard, but I think it's important to start learning those communication skills because you can be great at creating the marketing material, but in order to be successful in any type of business, you've got to be comfortable speaking, and it's something that this generation has lost. We're so eat up with the technology that, and then I know COVID didn't help either.
Yeah.
Being able to explain an idea, being able to sell your product, sell yourself, sell it to your employees to get on the same page. How important is it to start getting at least decent at speaking?
Um, it's so important because if you cannot explain your product to someone, the chances of them sitting down and reading a Word document or something that you wrote or a really long email are slim to none because
Yeah,
one thing people value is their time. So I'm sure you're going to touch on this at some point within the school year, but there's something called an elevator pitch. Elevator pitch really just means from the time you enter the elevator to the time you get off. If you met your favorite person on the elevator and you wanted to tell them about the service or product, are you able to get that information into them for them to make a decision right then and there from the time you enter the elevator to the time you get off the elevator? So learning how to speak is one thing I would say is learn how to be clear. Figure out what are the key selling points that you want to touch on. You can have a bunch of other things, but what are the key selling points that you want to touch on? And then figure out your closing argument. Your closing argument is one that's solid, but it's not pushy. You want to give that person opportunity to able to like run things back in their head and say, oh wow, that sounds great. Or wow, I didn't feel pressured by that. Or wow, I didn't feel like someone's stealing my time, or whatever the case may be. Speaking, I laugh. When I was in college, I was never this good at always speaking, but I had really bad eyesight. And so whenever I was presenting in front of the class, I would really practice my presentations really, really well. And then when I went up to present, I would take off my glasses. I couldn't see anybody. But because I practiced my presentations so well, I knew exactly what was on my slides, what I wanted to talk
Wow.
about, what I wanted to present, because I perfected my elevator pitch, right? So I would take off my glasses so that way when I'm looking at the crowd, I can't see anybody. If you're making funny faces, if you're looking at me weird, I can't see you. So I'm just focused on presenting. So that was a trick that worked for me. But there's so many other ways and so many things that you can do. Even I would say, with the day of technology and us having phones, do an experiment for yourself. Whatever project or business you're creating right now, you don't have to post these videos anywhere, but record yourself.
Yeah.
Do a 30-day test of you recording yourself saying, for 30 days, I'm going to spend time pitching myself and see how you improve. By day 30, you would have perfected how you're talking about your business. You would have perfected the things that you miss in day one and how you present yourself. So when it comes to speaking, I just say it's a thing of practice and figuring out solutions and things that work for you. For me, it was memorizing these presentations and taking off my glasses so I wouldn't be able to see anybody and feel that pressure. For
Man, that's
you, it
good.
could be watching back videos that you did from day one, day two, day three, and then fixing the little things here and there that you don't really like. And by day 30, you have a perfect elevator pitch for your business. So, yeah.
Man, that's good. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. I like this first one. This is Jameer Mayfield. He's in 11th grade. He's a member of our band, member of our JROTC here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, what is the biggest risk you face when you start a business?
The biggest risk you face when you start a business is that you're doing it solo. So there's a lot of opportunity for things to fall apart. But remembering why you're doing it in the first place and remembering that as an entrepreneur, these are, I will call them growing pains that you have to face. Remembering that will always recenter you, will always bring you back to saying, okay, cool, this might have failed. The biggest risk is that you're going to fail. So take the risk anyways, right? Um, you're going to fail in certain things, but you're going to use that as a learning opportunity. You're not going to use it as a moment to quit. That's not the best lesson I've ever learned as an entrepreneur is you want to fail quick. When you
Yeah.
start a business, you want to fail quickly because when you fail quickly, you learn quickly and you're able to perfect it a lot quickly. Save yourself time and money.
I got time for one more. This is Jacayla Cross. She's in 10th grade. And she asked, what made you focus on the target audience of healthcare as opposed to other sectors?
Because I did my market research, right? I saw an opportunity there. I saw that there were so many like fun brands, like when you look at makeup, all those things, social media was their stomping ground. They dominated that area.
It's
But
a
when
good
I
point.
looked, yeah, and when I looked at healthcare providers, I saw that they were looking for opportunity to bring more clients in, but they were not on social media, and that's where everybody is. Everybody's on their phones, they're scrolling, they're doing all these things, and they're not presenting themselves well on social media. So I saw that as an opportunity. Like these healthcare clinics are lacking, or they're missing, they're MIA pretty much on social media. So I need to focus on that, even though it's not glamorous. When a lot of people think of social media, they want to work for like the makeup brands, the fun clothing brands, and all those things, or become an influencer. But sometimes the best money is made in the industries that you don't think are fun or amazing to work in.
That is a spectacular point. Everybody wants to be fun and live the IG lifestyle, but sometimes that's not what the money is. So that was
Mm-hmm.
a great point. Now we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. This is a great way to start our year when it comes to entrepreneurship. But as we wrap up, why should these kids really master these marketing skills as they move on into owning their own business, or even if they just want to be an employee? Why is it so important to be such a great marketer and seller?
It's so great whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but I would say non-entrepreneurs, it's great to know how to market yourself because the job market is competitive. There's so many other people out there. How are you standing out? How are you presenting yourself? How are you showcasing your skills? Entrepreneurs, everybody wants to be their own boss, right? At some point, they don't want to be held by a corporate job or whatever the case is. How are you standing out with your clients? Make sure you're presenting yourself in a way where it's not going to take 7 months for someone that you pitched 7 months ago to get back to you. You can pitch them, and within a month, they've already made that decision. So,
Yeah.
really honing in on those skills and understanding why it's important to brand yourself in a way that makes sense is a great way for you as an entrepreneur to just take your business a step further.
Love it. Well, again, we thank you so much for taking some time for us. Um, After we get done, I'll definitely send them your socials if they want to get some more info. But again, we thank you so much for joining us. Hanah Foy, all the way from Boynton Beach, Florida. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys. It was such a pleasure. Have a great rest of the school year.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
You too. Bye.